it's a lot of unusual, seemingly irrational things about what we are doing here. And yet, I just spoke today to a young woman who has a graduate degree in ecological sustainability because she came here as a little girl and was somehow inspired by a completely fake place full of imaginary things that circles around this idea of a poetic idea of our place on a planet with animals. So I think there's really something to this idea of the poetic, artistic, asymmetrical approach to projecting arguments. Not to denigrate the value of a rational reason why the argument is valid, but that the argument itself might not need to be rational in order to be effective. People all want to save whales. Whales are not endangered. No, I mean, people want to save pandas, but not Malayan sun bears. But there are probably less Malayan sun bears than there are pandas. But pandas are few. You know? So there's a thing there that I think is quite interesting. I have a lot of faith in theater and theatricality and storytelling. Human beings are, pardon me for eating while I'm talking, but I'll go straight from here to another plate.
But for whales, we understand more about them. We understand they have a consciousness similar to us, or maybe even beyond us. And so I think that creates a connection.
I mean, that's another whole thing about the more we understand about ourselves and the more we understand about animals, the thinner and thinner the membrane that separates us from animals. And it seems to all sit right in this ability to form metaphorical narrative, language, the vehicle by which metaphorical language is conveyed. I mean, other animals have language. They don't have metaphorical language. They can't be oblique. They can only be direct. You know, a lion can say, this is my territory. He cannot say, my territory is like my heart. He can't say that. We say things like that. And this place is full of those very, very deliberate metaphors. Pardon me, that resonates so well. It's very deliberately crafted. It's very, very deliberately crafted. And now, are there questions?
What kind of questions people have?
If there's any section of the park that you would redo, which section would that be? If you had a chance.
I mean, you can imagine I walk through this park constantly going, damn it. We probably need to update our dinosaurs because they're all designed right at the cusp of all the Chinese discoveries of that super dense sediment with all the feathers and pigment on feathers and all of that. That's a thing. Ultimately, over the years that we've run the park, its core identity, the thing that says, I know I'm at Animal Kingdom, seems to be most vested in Africa and Asia, which are the most photoreal, kind of straight. We'll probably back that through the whole park eventually, try to make it be more like its core. But these things could go on for decades.
When Chief Bill and I were here with Gary Graham, he told the story about the opposition that some groups had to the story of the pamphlets from the Tree of Life, and they pulled those, and how they changed the name from Genesis to Oasis.
Oh yeah, before we even opened.
Yeah. And so today we have this tension with climate change, which is obviously critical for preserving habitat for the animals. So how do you balance those? Where do you know when to push and not to push?
You know, we're pretty assertive, but we're not. This entire thing that is here, this is not really a great information delivery device for many reasons. The least of which is just the if you want to absorb information cognitively, you know, research will show that it is better to sit there and frown while you're reading, literally to frown. If you frown while you're reading, your body will think something really important is happening that it has to pay attention to. But people aren't frowning. right? So there's not a great venue for cognitive linear explanation. It's not a, this is not that place. It's a great place for two things. One is direct physical body kinetic experience of animals. So that when you do read about elephant poaching, you're like, oh yeah, elephants, I remember that, right? And the other, I think, is emotional connection. So that when you do read about elephant poaching, you're like, oh yeah, those elephants, I really care about them.
Right.
So when you think about remember, we also have the conservation fund. We also do have books. There are also television shows. So you have to think of this web of dispersed effort in which this thing is primarily kinesthetic, body memory, and emotion. Primarily. It's not that we don't deliver information, but you would never hang this on information delivery. You hang this on emotional experience and direct kinesthetic experience of something that happened to me. And so the next time I do come across cognitive information, I have a memory, a physical memory to attach to it, makes it more vivid, makes it more able to be retained, that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, go ahead.
What inspired you to take that approach? Like, how did you decide that that would be the approach?
Yeah, okay, so what inspired us to take that approach? It is sort of an inherently theatrical approach, right? We started with the premise of animals. We knew we were going to do something with animals. You have to kind of go in there and go, okay, there's a whole grid of possibilities there. Inside of that grid of total possibilities, what are the possibilities that we as a company with our particular skill base can add value to? That is less than the subset of the whole. Where does that lie? What is it we do well? How can that be applied to this issue? Like that. Very, I mean, my group and myself as a leader, we tend very much towards this comp lit crit, very, very grounded pre-analysis phase before we do design. So before we do design, we sort of grid out this mental diagram. What is this for? Why is it important? Why would I now choose to spend 4 years of my life working on this thing? What's the inner value? So Animal Kingdom is built around a set of values that derive directly from the animals. We know you're going to see an animal. And we know that that is a essentially wild animal because we put a lot of effort into not overly taming these animals. They're wild animals, which means they're going to do whatever they want. They will do different things every day. They will be born, possibly right in front of you, make more babies, possibly right in front of you, do all the other biological things they do, and then they will pass away over the time that this park exists. So they're completely caught up in time, in change, and in life. So you can't create a frame for that subject that does not participate in that subject. That's why the park is the way it is. It's not just a matter of willful choice that we have this place that, you know, it's kind of got like, it's kind of grungy. It's got the telephone wires, it's got mildew, it's got signs, it's got licenses for people to operate businesses that don't even really exist because we made them up. So that it's like the animals, it's really, really real. Because ultimately, if I was to create a place that was really, really artificial, then the animal doesn't frame properly. When I get to the animal, it's like the animal's not playing along. Well, that's not fair, right? So we have to run that machine in reverse and make a place that is just like those animals. Real, unpredictable, caught up in time and change, not smoothed out and prettified around the edge, but more real. So it becomes a kind of inevitable thing. If you're honest about what you're talking about, you're going to end up with a design that's like this. So then when people come in to the environment, they're moving, they're doing all the things they're doing, you know, they're having their day in a park, but they're surrounded by this extremely consistent portrayal. The portrayal is very consistent, because whether it's a trash can, lighting fixture, doorknob, it's all going back to, well, how does this express the value set? Like, just none of you have ever worked as a designer for Animal Kingdom, but I could run you through this incredibly inevitable thing. So think about the intrinsic value of nature, the idea that nature is a value against which no other value could possibly be higher. and that value is manifested by the dominance of natural forces over man-made things, and the dominance of organic forms over geometric forms, as we see all around us, in such a place, which is 600 acres. It's big enough to put all the other parks in. So just as decision-making behavior, in such a place, if there is a door, is that door more likely to be made of metal or wood? Probably wood, right? Smooth wood or rough wood? So now there's a doorknob the size of a tangerine in 600 acres of land, entirely designed. Is that doorknob stainless steel or oil rub bronze? There's a pattern the size of my thumbnail in 600 acres of developed, designed land. Is it likely to be geometric or organic? Organic. So this is a kind of cascade of inevitability in the design, so that the designers are pretty free, because it's kind of obvious, right? You kind of have to be kind of dumb to not get that that pattern should probably be organic. If I have two in front of me, it should probably be organic. So when you do that, it creates these deep harmonies. Deep harmonies between, like, the tree, the wall next to the tree, the door on the wall, the doorknob. You know, it's all boom, 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 boom. And that's not what the normal world is like. The normal world is full of contradiction and full of disharmony. So we're inside this place that just rhymes better, and that makes the messages flow better, because I'm spending less time on distractions trying to even find a message. You walk out of here, just walk out to, you know, I-95, and you can see the sort of design opposite of this. I don't know if that answers the question, but like that, right?
Well, I know your time's about up.
Yeah, I got to run over to my
son. We have a couple of things we want to give you.
Oh, how lovely. That's great.
First is a blue marble. Blue marble from outer space symbolizes, you know, the Earth. My
that's
colleague
great.
and friend Wallace Nichols started this project to pass on blue marbles to people that are making a difference.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, I really appreciate that.
I'd like to get a picture to send
to
Wallace.
Very good.
If you have blue marble. Great. The second thing is...
put that in an earring.
from Chief Phil Lane. This is his book, The Sacred Tree.
Oh, and with an introduction by Jane Goodall.
Yeah, and this was put together. He called a council of elders from 45 North American tribes. He said all of our traditions are being lost through alcoholism, drug abuse, intermarriage, etc. We need to write down our traditions. To which all the elders said, no, we don't do that. But what they agreed to do is put a composite of all these 45 tribes together.
Really?
And this has become the bridge to the Eagle and the Condor, because they have a similar initiative in South America. So this is a pretty...
Wow, that's pretty cool.
And Phil wanted to deliver this to you in LA, and that meeting never got connected, so he wanted to make sure that I got it.
Wow, well, thank you. That is really cool. I'm going to read that right away.
And the last thing, I don't know if you ever came across John Lenhart or not.
Oh, yes.
Well, John and I co-created what we call the Blue Community Strategies, which are based on things that Disney is doing that can be replicated and scalable.
Oh, great.
And this is a Blue Community cup that has the one problem: you can't put it in a dishwasher or it loses its magic qualities.
Oh, I love that.
You won't see the magic qualities until you put something hot in it.
Oh, cool. All right, well, I like that that's wrapped up.
So let's give Joe a